Hey, Steve Mignogna here doing the Junkyard Crawl at Bernardston Auto Recce in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1941 Ford Deluxe. Now, 1941 was a big year for Ford. In fact, it was the year they made their 29th millionth vehicle. 29 million vehicles since the beginning of Ford Motor Company in the early 1900s. But 1941 was also a very big year in a couple of ways. The body became 6 inches wider, although the car looked about the same as it did in 1940 to the casual observer. For 41, the cabin became 6 inches wider, which made the front seat truly 3 across. A little detail we see on these is how the running boards of 1940, which would have been rubber and exposed, were concealed under these door extensions right here. That was something you would not see on a 40. It was new for 41, and again, it allowed for a wider front seat. The running boards were still there, but again, they were concealed beneath the door skirt and smaller. Again, this front seat is 1941 specific. It's wider by 6 inches. And here's a 1948 IMC model, 48 Ford convertible by IMC. This was released back in the late 1960s. Kind of a cool thing here, available as a convertible. Now, 1948 would be the final model year for this styling cycle. 1949 would see a whole different thing, envelope styling. But again, on these 1941 through 48s, the wider body once again made these true 6-passenger cars, whereas for 1940, only 2 across in the front. Another detail too, starting in 1940, was the relocation of the shifter from the floor to the steering column for that 3-speed manual transmission right there. Again, in 1939, it would have been on the floor, right in the way of a middle seat passenger should you want to try and cram one in there. But again, with the shifter up here, the door was wide open literally for 3 across seating. This one has it looks like radio delete, but this is actually a radio car. We know that because this up here is where the Ford radio would have gone, into this hole here. This block-off plate is not a block-off. And furthermore, by coming around to the side of the car at the front fender, it has an antenna right there. So this is a factory radio car, more than likely. Somebody grabbed the radio, but the remnants of the antenna are right here. 1941, a 1-year fender with this seam right here horizontally between the top and the bottom. 1940, nope. 1942, nope. 41 only. Gotta love the devil in the details. 41, of course, would have had sealed beam headlights with the universal 3-prong fitting right here. There would have been a glass bulb like a seal beam on a 65 Mustang. Same idea right in here. And you gotta love this too. Glass lenses on the turn signals on top of the fenders. Kind of cool stuff right there. The fracture here, but again, streamlined modern styling. Now, something also new for 1941 was Ford's first 6-cylinder engine since 1906 and the Model K. It's true. Ford was strictly 4-cylinder and V8 from 1907 through 1940. But again, 1941 saw something new under the hood, and is it here? It is not, but what could have been had here was a new 6-banger. Let's put this prop right up here. And I'm pretty sure the 6-cylinder car, what we see on this one here, there's no head pipe left, but this little flange, this area right here, I'm pretty sure was 6-cylinder specific. And again, with the 6-cylinder engine, what you got was 226 cubic inches, 90 horsepower, the same 90 horsepower as the 221 cubic inch V8, but you got 180 foot-pounds of torque with the 6 instead of 156 with the V8. So it's crazy but true. The 6-popper was actually a more potent engine, $15 cheaper, 15% more torque. And in fact, here's Collectible Automobile, April 2008 right here with the story of the Ford 6, the forgotten flathead, as they say. On the top right is that green engine. There's that flathead 6 with the exhaust manifold exiting on the passenger side down through the specific gravel shield we see on this one here. And again, here's more on it. And these are all 6-cylinder powered Fords from the day. And it says the new Flathead 6 was built in the company's Cleveland, Ohio engine plant, the same place that would make the 351 Cleveland in 1970. Like the V8 Flathead, it was an under-square design, but thanks to its larger 3.3-inch bore and 4.4-inch stroke, the 6 actually had a greater displacement, 226 cubic inches versus 221. The 6 was rated at 90 horse, like I said, the same as the V8, but peaked at 3,300 RPM versus 38 for the V8. So more low-end power, aside from having more displacement and a tighter 6.71 compression. The 6 also made 15% more torque, so 180 foot-pounds. And again, it was the largest 6-popper in the low price field and 15 bucks less than the flathead V8. You know, the only difference, the flathead V8 had that cool burble, the dual exhaust, the 6, not so much, but more torque. Frankly, probably the quicker car off the line. Now on this one, we look under the hood, we continue poking around, and we can see this one still has the front suspension. Here's the steering box right here, manual steering. There's no power steering at this point in time. Those two radius rods cast, or they're forged steel, this one here and that one there, go to the straight axle, which is underneath the cross member. Here's the leaf spring clamp right here, transverse leaf spring. Motor mounts right here. Again, the, I think, 6-cylinder specific dust shield or gravel shield right here for the 6-popper manifold to go down, no V8s. And again, a heater. Here's the linkage, or the tubes, I should say, for the heater. And yeah, interesting stuff. Again, 1941, a wider body on Ford, so don't confuse this with a 1940. Let's come around to this side here and continue our look-see. And again, disc brakes, no, not in 1941. This would have had big, like 12-inch drums, 11-inch drums perhaps. But here's the spindle where that drum and hub would go onto right here. And this is a straight axle. And here again, here's one of those radius rods here. Right on these, go under the back. They pivot under the back where the transmission would go, but again, that's a straight axle. A lot of guys building hot rods and gassers like to take a 38 to 48 Ford axle like this, and with the transverse leaf spring, put it under the nose of a Nova or 55 Chevy, whatever you want, but that's where it all starts, right there. The friction shocks right here, not telescoping type, but that's basically a friction shock type deal right there, and that would keep the front suspension from hopping up and down too much. And we get to this side here, and this is a desirable 2-door sedan body type. And we'll move around here. I'll open the door as you get your way by. And inside, you can see again that Art Deco streamlined modern instrument panel right here. This is a plastic right here made of soy. Ford was very much involved with experimenting with soy-based plastics, and that's definitely some of that stuff right there. That's not metal. Very advanced stuff, frankly. Most of the other industry would have been a die-cast metal piece. The available clock right there, there it is. I think this one shut down at what, 4:15? That's when it last breathed its last gasp in the rear floor. This again being a 2-door, we can see through there. And there's the torque tube right down here. The rear axle is right down there. There it is. And again, Ford used torque tubes from the Model T all the way through 1948, unlike a lot of other car makers that used an open drive. But if it worked, it worked. Around the back, let's take a peek here. And for 1941, no more split rear window, just a big piece of glass here. And oh, by the way, here's a sealed beam headlight right here. We talk about these. We all come to just assume that every car has a sealed beam, right? It means that the beam is inside of this. It's sealed. Well, in 1940, you would have had a chrome reflector, a removable lens, and a bulb inside of that. So 1940 brought sealed beams to Ford and everybody else, pretty much. In the back here is the rear bumper, still in good shape. It could be chromed and reused, I suppose, inside the trunk. Oh, yeah. Okay, Mother Nature has taken effect, and we have the factory lightweight program going on long before the Thunderbolt in 1964. And here we have, yeah, kind of neat. The trunk is rotten. You got to wonder what this can once held right here. It rotted away in place along with the car. Probably maybe a thing of peanuts. It's too short to be oil. Put that back where it came from. Here's the gas tank right here. Hey, Mom, look, no hands, no tank. And right here, the gas filler has a little story to itself as well. We come around to the driver's side, and 1941 had something new. A concealed gas filler with this little door right here. 1940, it would have been a spout which was exposed. So again, year to year, Ford did little things that made the car look similar but actually be much more different in certain ways, if that makes any sense. But again, the wider body on these things allowed full 6-passenger seating, something you couldn't do in a 1940 with a narrower body. And finally, here's the rear axle, once again with that unusual Ford-specific, really long goofy thing right there. But again, this speaks to the long, full-floating axle shaft that's inside of here. Big drums on these things, but again, this is an unusual thing. Again, this is a 5-on-5 bolt pattern, and this is the smaller pattern, 1936 through 39, I believe. There's a big pattern, kind of an odd-looking wheel, but they went back to the more conventional small spider wheel for 1940 and 41. So here we have it, a 2-door post, you know, a classic little hot rod or a stock car would have been possible here. This is probably a 6-cylinder car, which is pretty unusual. The first year, 1941, for a Ford with a 6-bang, was a flathead, of course. That lasted till the early 50s when an overhead valve 6-cylinder replaced it. But again, that's the story right here of the immediate pre-World War II era. Of course, early in 1942, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor would bring things to a screeching halt in Detroit, and then Ford would start making tanks and things like that, and B-24s, and to win the war. But in the meantime, little cars like this, during World War II, would have been driving around with old tires, gas rationing stamps, necessary travel only. This car could only talk the stories it would have to tell us. But we'll be back tomorrow with more Junkyard Crawl. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. Share this video with your friends. Give us a thumbs up, a like, and be sure to hit the bell so you're aware of the next video which comes out tomorrow morning.